How can I tell, Hannah? He is good and he's fond of me. Besides, Kit's voice was pleading, if I don't marry him, how shall I ever escape from my uncle's house? Bless thee, child, said Hannah softly. Perhaps 'tis the answer. But remember, thee has never escaped at all if love is not there. Presently, Kit opened the door to Prudence's timid knock and was comforted by the pleasure that rushed into the child's face. Prudence had further news of the culprits. Nat won't be able to come to see you, she told Hannah. They marched the three of them straight to the landing and put them on the Dolphin. But Nat waved to me as he went by. You know Nat? Kit asked the child, surprised. Of course I know him. He comes to see Hannah last time he listened to me read. Why should it disturb her to think of Nat sharing the reading lessons? Kit wondered, trying to be reasonable. How many of his visits had she missed? She was a little jealous to think of them all here cozily together while she was hard at work in the cornfield. Annoyed at herself, she picked up the sail wrapping bundle. He sent you a present, though, she told Hannah brightly. Hannah ruefully surveyed the length of gray woolen. Now, isn't that kind of Nat? She exclaimed, so soft and tight woven, much too fine for the likes of me. But thee knows, the truth in these old eyes of mine can't even see to thread a needle. Then Prudence and I will make you a dress, promised Kit blithely. Can you sew? Truly? Demanded Prudence, overwhelmed at still another accomplishment. Of course I can sew. I've never made a woolen dress, but I learned to embroider before I was your age. I'll borrow a pattern and scissors from Mercy, and you'll see. While the reading lesson began, Kit spread the cloth on the floor, turning in this way and that, and she had seen Mercy do, trying to plan how to use the length to the best advantage. The idea of cutting and sewing a dress by herself was novel and exciting. Will you really let me sew some stitches? Asked Prudence, watching her with shining eyes. Really and truly, promised Kit, smiling back at her. What fun it would be to make something warm and pretty for Prudence. She thought with longing. Did they never give the child anything decent to wear? Those skimpy sleeves did not even cover her elbows, and the scratchy, linsey-woolsey cloth kept her skin and shoulders constantly twitching. She knew she could never give Prudence even the smallest gift. The lessons were risky enough. Looking at the child, Kit felt again a fleeting uneasiness. What misery would be the child's lot if these meetings were discovered? The miracle that had been taking place before their eyes had made it all too easy for them to forget the danger. For Prudence was an entirely different child from the woe-begone, shrinking creature who had stood in the roadway outside the school. The tight little bud that was the real Prudence had steadily opened its petals in the sunshine of Kit's friendship and Hannah's gentle affection. Her mind was quick and eager. She had memorized the horn book in a few days' time and sped through the primer. After that, she had plunged headlong into the only other reading matter available, Hannah's tattered Bible. Kit had chosen the Psalms to begin with, and slowly, syllable by syllable, Prudence was spelling out the lines, while Hannah sat listening. Her own lips often moved with this child in lines she remembered and could no longer read. There were days on end, of course, but Kit could not manage to keep the tryst. But Hannah and Prudence were fast friends now, and she knew that the reading went companionably on. There were more frequent days when Prudence could not escape her mother's sharp eye, and other days when her small face looked so pinched and exhausted that Kit wondered painfully if the child had been punished for tasks she had left unfinished. Always before she had been able to shake off her doubts, but today she had too sharp a lesson in the retribution of the Puritan colony. For the first time she felt a twinge of real fear. Hannah, she said softly over Prudence's head, I am afraid to go on like this. What would happen if they found us out? Nat is strong enough to take it, but Prudence? Yes, agreed Hannah quietly. I know that soon Thea would begin to consider that. What should I do, Hannah? Has Thea looked for an answer? Prudence looked up. You won't say I can't come, Kit, she pleaded. I don't care what they do to me. I can't stand anything. I can stand anything. If only you'll let me come. Of course you can come, said Kit, stooping to give the child a reassuring hug. We'll find an answer somehow. Look now. I've brought you a present too. From her pocket she drew three precious objects that had required some ingenuity to gather, and partly used copybook from her trunk, a small bottle of ink, and a quill pen. "'Tis high time you learned to write," she said. "Oh, Kit, now? This very minute?" "This very minute. Watch me carefully." Opening to a clean page, she carefully wrote the child's name on the first line, Prudence. Prudence. "Now see if you can copy that." The small hand trembled so that the first eager stroke sent a great blot of ink sprawling across the page. Prudence raised her stricken eyes. "Oh, Kit, I've spoiled your lovely book." "'Tis no matter. You should see the great blots I used to make. Now, very carefully." Finally, it was completely written. Prudence, in quite respectable letters, without a single blot. Prudence was awestruck at her own handiwork. Hannah came to peer closely and admire. "Let me do it again," pleaded the child. "This time I won't make the R so wiggly." She grasped the quill in tense, careful fingers, and her lips silently formed each letter as she traced the lines. Over her bent head, Kit and Hannah exchanged an affectionate smile. For a time they both sat listening to the small sounds in the house, the scratching of the pen, the rustling and snapping of the fire, and the slow purr of the yellow cat. "How peaceful it is," thought Kit, lazily stretching her toes near to the blaze. "Why is it that even the fire in Hannah's hearth seems to have a special glow, like a sunshine on the day that I sat on the new thatch with Nat? If only right now, on that bench across the hearth. But what ridiculous daydream was this?" Kit shook herself upright. "'Tis too dark to work any more," she said. Prudence laid down the quill with a long sigh, and plopping down on the hearth, dragged the limp, drowsy cat into her arms. "I wish I could live here with you and Pussy," she said wistfully, laying her thin cheek against the soft golden fur. "I wish thee could too, child," said Hannah gently. "Remember, Nat said it was like the psalm I was reading that day." The child said dreamily, "Peace be within the walls." "Well," Kit interrupted too briskly, "there won't be any peace anywhere if we don't get home in a hurry." She flung open the cottage door, and a bit of milkweed whisked in a rush of November wind, spilling the shreds of spidery white down. Prudence ran back to fling her arms about Hannah. Kit would remember many times the picture she carried with her along the darkened road. Was there some premonition, she would wonder, that made the moment so poignant? Some foreknowledge that this was the last afternoon the three would ever spend together in the small cottage? She would remember, too, that all the way home she tried without success to find the answer that Hannah had promised could always be found in her own heart. Rachel greeted her reproachfully. "You're very late, Kit. It was wrong of you to stay away from lecture. Your uncle was very displeased, and John Holbrook walked back with us to say good-bye to you and Mercy." "Good-bye? Where's John going?" Rachel looked across the room at Judith, who was setting the table near the fire, but Judith, her eyes red from weeping, said nothing. "What has happened, Aunt Rachel?" asked Kit, bewildered. "John has enlisted in the militia. There's a detachment going on from Hartford to aid some of the towns north of Hadley in Massachusetts against the Indian attacks, and John volunteered to go with them." "To fight?" Kit was too astonished to be tactful. "Why, John is the last person I think to be a soldier. 'Tis a doctor they needed, and John has learned a good deal of medicine this year. But why now, right in the middle of his studies?" "I think it was his way of breaking with Dr. Bulkley. explained Rachel. He has tried so hard, poor boy.